Alright, to start off this video, here are two scenarios I've thought of. Number 1. Have Kaden be the main protagonist, have only him playable. Alister could be a party member from time to time. Number 2. Two playable characters, same story from two different perspectives. This is something we've never had in the Ratchet Clank series, well of course except for All For One. All For One, we had 4 characters following each other and going through the same missions. As for this prequel, I'd imagine Alister and Kaden coming across each other from time to time, and communicating while doing their own separate things. So with these two concepts out of the way, let's dive straight into the story. The story is pretty much the main part of this video. I have a bunch of things to go over. Oh, and before I forget, what's up guys, it's me Vivi, and welcome back to another Ratchet Clank video. I really hope you guys enjoy this one. Actually, this idea has been on my mind for a very long time. I guess I never actually took the time to work on it. In simple words, it just got left behind. Two things have happened in the Ratchet Clank series which are pretty major. The Great War, where the Kragmites were sent to a different dimension by the Lombaxes, and then we had the Lombaxes escaping to another dimension due to Tachyon's havoc. Now, we don't know how old Alister and Kaden were at that time when the Lombaxes escaped. Actually, we never knew their ages in the Ratchet Clank series. Tachyon was found inside an egg on Creely Comet in the mines by the Lombaxes, and the year is unspecified. We don't know how old Tachyon was when he took control. So in this video, there's going to be a bunch of assumptions, alright? Looking at Tachyon in Tools of Destruction, he did have some childish instincts. When Ratchet made fun of his name, perhaps he was maybe in his 20s, maximum 40s, I'd say, and assumed that the species in Ratchet & Clank age like humans. Let's go with that idea. Azimuth in the Kraken time, the way he spoke, I'd say he was in his 40s or 50s max. We can also say that Kaden was around that age when Tachyon apparently killed him and his wife. If, let's say, both Kaden and Azimuth were 40 years old when the Lombaxes escaped, and Tachyon was 20, then remove 20 years. Azimuth and Kaden were 20 years old before finding Tachyon. Now before this, I'd imagine either a cutscene of the Great War or some sort of slideshow with the narrator in the back. I want the Great War to be mentioned in some sort of way at least. If they do decide to make an actual cutscene, then it's going to be pretty intense. This Great War happened like eons ago before the series. I'd like to at least have it mentioned, right? It's a prequel. Anyways, after the cutscene ends, the actual story of the prequel begins. Azimuth and Kaden, we assume they're in their 20s. They're still in school. One of them always goofing around, ending up in trouble. And I'd like to see an actual classroom. The bell ringing. Now, was Ratchet's mother in the same class as Kaden? No. Apparently Lorna, Angela's mother, and Ratchet's mother went to a different school on Viperia. This was explained by Azimuth. This was a dialogue which was removed from the game. Now, Azimuth didn't say where Kaden and him went to. They probably went to Viperia or probably didn't go to school. Who knows? If Ratchet's mother went to the same school and was in the same classroom, I'd imagine Kaden always being infatuated by her, always staring at her in class, and Alister actually realizing it. I could imagine Alister being like, dude, when are you gonna ask this girl out on a date? You know, just a discussion between two young adults. And it's assumed they were best friends. Something I realized from the Ratchet & Clank series, all of the intros are always so serious. Ratchet already in attack mode. He either got abducted, they either got abducted by a ship. You know, you've played the games, right? I'd like a fun intro this time. Something different. Simple. No trouble at all. Just young adults doing their thing. They could be going to a science fair. Maybe they're getting ready for graduation. Alister tells Kaden to hurry up. And he could be saying this in class. After the bell rings, cue short gameplay. Have Kaden walk in the hallways. Basic controls. Left, right, jump. That's all. Have also Kaden talk to himself while walking in the hallway. He could be talking about this girl he's met and how shy he is to ask her out on a date. You never know, maybe he was a shy person. So after a couple of basic controls and cutscenes, we have a time skip of around 5 to 10 years. We get a scene with the Lombaxes inside a mine. They discovered a Kragmite egg. They take it to their headquarters. Kaden refuses, or at least someone or a group of people. Someone tells them, hey, it's just a baby. Calm calm down, it's just a poor little fella. Alright, they come to an agreement to raise this cragmite. Now about that trinket that Azimuth had with picture of Kaden and him, what if that was a gift from Ratchet's grandma? What if she was dying and before she died she gave Kaden this gift? So once everything was over, everything was calm, everyone back to their own usual stuff, Kaden proposes. They get married. I don't know if they would feature a scene, but I would love to see a wedding in Ratchet & Clank. That right there is going to add something new, right? The wedding happens, let's say, when Kaden is in his 30s. You want to add that shocking effect? Young Tachyon was there at that wedding. He still had no idea what happened to his race at that time. I could imagine Alister being his best man. I could picture these two in a tuxedo. It would be awesome, come on. So, we can say Alister and Kaden, who were best friends, were pretty much the main heroes back in the day, defending the galaxy when Kaden got married. That's my idea. When Kaden gets married, that's how the game begins. So this whole time, what I've been talking about is a very long intro. Knowing the awesome visuals that Ratchet & Clank has, I don't think people would mind a long intro. As long as they don't go with the in-game cutscenes from the PS4 game. I would love the visuals to look like a crack in time. Ratchet & Clank's model in that game will always be my favorite. And those visuals, they were incredible for a PS3 game. I mean, it could have been considered as a PS4 game. So with the introduction out of the way, cue the story/gameplay. So during their adventures there in their 30s, right, traveling the galaxy, one person I want to see is Drex Father. Perhaps he wasn't really causing harm to the galaxy. We can say his son Drex was the most corrupted one, and he was born on Arxon. They could feature Planet Arxon in the prequel. We can say Drex perhaps was the one who purposely polluted Arxon. He wanted to build a new planet with pieces from other planets to make money as well. Before that, we can say he was following his father's rules, which he despised. We can say his father was a very powerful man known in the industry. Ratchet, apparently it was confirmed on Facebook by Insomniac Games that he was 17 in the first game. In Jack X, it is said that Ratchet is 18 and deadlocked. So remove 17 years at least. We can say that Drex's father was most likely alive. Now Ratchet was not born when Alister and Kaden were on their adventures and being their heroes. Young Ratchet should be left for the end. And like I said, Alister and Kaden being heroes of the galaxy, so they could be on their separate ways. In this case, we go with scenario number 2, 2 playable characters. We have the option to pick which one we want at the start menu. Let's talk about the general idea of gameplay. I'd imagine similar mechanics to A Crack in Time. As for the weapons, I really do hope they do not recycle weapons. I want to see new weapons. Alright? Now Ratchet in A Crack in Time, he wore his dad's hover boots, so I'd imagine the same exact mechanics from that game to be featured in a prequel. His father is wearing the boots that his son wore in the future. As for the weapon vendor, should they go with Gadgetron? Megacorp? We don't even know if Megacorp was a thing back then. Grommelnet weapons? The vendor from the future? Trilogy? Perhaps not. That didn't even exist in the past, we can say. What if the Lombaxes had their own weapon manufacturing? I mean, Dreadzone had its own weapon vendor. Knowing how the Lombaxes were so smart, why not have their own company? Until they escaped to another dimension. We can say the company died afterwards. Same thing goes for the armor system. I'd imagine customizable armor. Have we ever had that? Apart from the colors? Not really. All we had this time is purchase this and boost your stats. Why not make it custom this time? You get where I'm getting at? Don't change the gameplay completely, but add some new interesting things. Anyways, let's get back to the story. Whatever happened to Gleeman Vox's hand? I'd love to see a scene where he talks to Drex Father perhaps about this business deal. Offer refused. How did he lose his hand? Was there some sort of conflict? Gleeman Vox had apparently made fortune through business ventures, and one of those ventures involved Drex Father. They were trying to make a deal, but his offer got refused. Later on in the future, he grows up, becomes older, and builds this illegal fighting arena in an abandoned sector with no rules whatsoever. It would be pretty cool to see a young Vox in the prequel. He could perhaps interact with Kaden and Alister as well. I'd imagine young Gleeman Vox coming across these two and trying to make a business deal, which they both refuse. Now about Drex Father, the powerful man. How did he die? Sickness? Old age? Plot twist, he was killed by his own son. Dark game right there. It could probably even be considered rated T, which I doubt will happen. Deadlocked was rated T, but I don't think Insomniac Games will go back to that rating. Who knows? Drex, completely hating his father and his orders, he wanted to take over. He was just this very corrupted child. How did he die? guy perhaps pushed him off a cliff or something. They could show like a brief scene with Drex laughing maniacally. Of course, I'd imagine this scene taking place during the end of the game. So, was Drex Father the villain in the past? Is he going to be the villain in the prequel? I prefer to say no. They need to change it up a little. Don't make one's ancestor bad just because his descendant was bad, right? It's way too cliche. I don't want to have his father causing havoc in the galaxy. Just have him be this powerful man all about business. He doesn't have to destroy planets, right? What about Tachyon? Is he going to be the villain in the game? Yes, because I'd imagine him being the final boss. That huge battle that happened, that'll take place during the end of the game. However, a huge portion of the story will take place before Tachyon finds out. Pretty much before Azimuth betrays the Lombaxes. Could Artemis Zog be a villain during that segment of the game? Not really. He was portrayed as a villain in the comics, so let's leave it at that. Then who will be the villain before Tachyon taking over? Well, here's the thing. Ratchet & Clank never had multiple villains. Just mini boss battles, right? So I'd imagine the prequel having the same concept, here and there. What about the Ghost Pirates? They could make an appearance. There was apparently a battle with the pirates called a Mochi Mass, according to the Galactic Rangers from Up Your Arsenal. They had said that they were the only ones involved. Knowing their personality, I'm gonna say that they lied. Perhaps the Lombaxes were there to aid, and this took place apparently in year 5323. Now, who was the captain of the space pirates? Captain Darkwater. He was their leader way before Captain Slag. Another character I'd imagine is Sasha's father, Pharonix, who wasn't president at that time. Could he have been a fighter? I know he was a guy about politics, but maybe at a younger age he thought about actually fighting and defending planets? How about new galaxies? At least one. Why not feature the one from the comics, from the Starshield comic? The Kavorian Galaxy, Planet Fractus. Why not feature the Cantors? But wait dude, wherever there's Kragmites, there's Cantors. But the Kragmites were sent to a different dimension. Not all of them. Why am I saying this? Because I'm going with the idea that not all the Lombaxes were on planet Fastoon when Tachyon was causing terror. Those who didn't escape, they got caught by Tachyon afterwards. So what if some Kragmites still existed on some planets, Planet Fractus being one? You know what I love about this prequel, guys? So many backstories, so many cutscenes. They should take the opportunity if a prequel were to happen, right? That would be awesome, honestly. So, a bunch of missions have already happened. We reach a cutscene. The Lombaxes sitting at this table, Tachyon approaching them with the blueprints, trying to get the Lombaxes to fund his gadgets and weapons. What Alister said to Ratchet in that cave in Kraken time, I want to see that scene fully animated. All of the Lombaxes sitting at one table discussing, some of them starting to have doubts how suddenly he shows up and shows these weapons. Kaden had doubts, but Azimuth saw that as an opportunity. He messed up. Alright, they agree with the idea because of Azimuth. I'd imagine other missions happening, going to other planets. Eventually, a time comes where there's trouble on planet Fastoon. Not that he's starting to attack, but something happened. Something major. Kaden becomes aware. I'd imagine a cutscene where he literally punches Azimuth in the face. You traitor. Like, make it intense. Azimuth betrayed their species. Because of him, Tachyon eventually caused terror and killed Ratchet's mother. So what I'm thinking right now is, we get a scene with Tachyon and the blueprints, but we still have a bunch of gameplay afterwards. A time comes where Kaden realizes that Azimuth completely messed up. After that, we have a time skip to that battle on Fastoon, and that's going to be one heck of a battle. There's going to be some crazy gameplay, a bunch of stuff happening on screen. It's going to be dramatic and intense. And about scenario number 2, having 2 playable characters. After Kaden punches his best friend in the face, do you think he'd want to continue with them on this journey? No. So I could imagine 2 stories. After he gets punched in the face, he does his own thing. He tries to solve the problem. Pretty much, both of their gameplays will have the same scene. Kaden leaves, and if you play as Kaden, that'll be the follow-up. If you play as Azimuth, that'll be the follow-up. He leaves and tries to solve the problem, right? I'm like imagining this battle in my head. It's going to be a very dark moment. Fire everywhere. Destruction. The Lombax is afraid, running. Kaden telling them to gather up at the court of Azimuth. Now at that point in the timeline, Ratchet was born. We get a scene of his mother trying to hide him in some place safe. She succeeds, and she hid him in a place only Kaden could find. By the time she hid Ratchet, Tachyon caught her and she died. Kaden was unaware of this. He was preoccupied with the dimensionator at that time. they have to show Lorna, Angela's mother. She was Ratchet's mother's best friend. I want a scene where she sends Angela to Bogon in an escape pod, and whatever happened to Lorna, she probably died as well. So once Kaden was done sending the Lombaxes to the other dimension, he refused to leave his family behind. That's why he didn't leave. Kaden thought he'd have enough time to flee together. His wife was protecting Ratchet until Tachyon caught up with her. Ratchet was hidden in a safe place. He thought his wife would still be alive. He was too late. I'd imagine a very dramatic scene. Kaden just breaking down and completely losing it. Why didn't just the mother and Ratchet follow Kaden? Because it was too dangerous. There was a battlefield. So the mother tried hiding Ratchet because she knew that maybe it was her last stand. And I don't know if they would ever reveal Ratchet's true name, where her mother kisses his forehead and tells him goodbye. She calls him by his real name. That'd be so emotional. Okay, now once Kaden finds Ratchet, why didn't they both go to the other dimension? Because he was afraid that Tachyon would find them both and kill them both. But Kaden could have fled with Ratchet on his ship to another large area, you know, to use the dimensionator. But what if Tachyon had followed him? Maybe he thought of that. So during that moment, he thought of sending Ratchet to Solana. Now apparently Kaden's ship crash landed according to the smuggler. Now we don't really know if that was Ratchet's father, but smuggler told Ratchet that he reminded him of someone, and that someone most likely being his father. Okay, where was Azimuth, his best friend, this whole time? Azimuth explained to Ratchet that he was banished from the Lombaxes. But didn't he think of coming to Fastoon? Did he have any idea that his race was in trouble? Going with what he said in A Crack in Time, knowing that Ratchet's father died, he knew about the battle. Where was he? Was he just there stalking? Watching his father breaking down like that? If he did go to Fastoon, he certainly did not follow the Lombaxes to the other dimension. Could he have been there fighting as well? They most likely grew up with each other, were best friends, and despite what he did betraying the Lombaxes, he still wanted to protect his race. He didn't do it out of redemption. Now, was Alister Azimuth telling the truth in A Crack in Time? I mean, was he telling everything? Was he hiding secrets? If so, I want the team to explore that in the prequel. Also, Kaden had theorized the Great Clock. Show a scene of that. Now, back to Ratchet's father. If he was alive, why would he remain hidden this whole time? Did Orvis tell him to not interfere with Ratchet? Orvis, being the leader of Zoni, saw the future and saw his son taking care of Clank, and because of that, he made sure that that happened. He spoke to Kaden. Watch it be Kaden disguised as the plumber this whole time. Keeping an eye. How did he know so much? That'd be crazy, right? Now the dimensionator. I'd assume it was with Kaden once he flew Fastoon, if that theory is true. And the device was hidden until Max Apogee, Talon's father, discovered it. It is theorized that Max Apogee, along with Angela Cross, used the dimensionator to find this dimension of the Lombaxes. For some reason, the dimensionator was found hidden at planet Jacindu, so I'm gonna say that Max Apogee entrusted someone to protect it. Kaden was the one who hid it mostly. He was the keeper of the device after all. Now, who took care of Ratchet? He was just a baby. What, he took care of himself? He was hungry. He needed food. How did he survive? I just don't picture him getting raised on his own. That is why Insomniac Games in the reimagining brought in Grimroth. Veldin is a deserted place. Was he in an orphanage? I doubt it. Now, could Grimroth have existed in the classic universe? What if he died of sickness at one point? That could explain why Ratchet was alone at the beginning of Ratchet & Clank 1. Careful, I'm not saying that they should attach the prequel to the reimagining. No, I'm talking about classic Grimroth here, if he ever existed. The final scene from the game, I'd imagine a scene with Azimuth just staring at that picture in his hands, just feeling so bad and be like, what have I done? And I'd imagine this taking place where he found shelter on planet Tauren 4. So guys, we've come to the end of the video. Have you enjoyed this video? Do you agree or completely disagree with some parts mentioned? And about the wedding, it's pretty hard to imagine, right? Kaden gets married and then goes on adventures, his wife constantly worried. Would you imagine such an event taking place maybe mid-game? What do you think about that? I'd like to hear your opinions. Other than that, I've been Vivi and thank you for watching.